How is everyone doing? We had a little bit of technical difficulty. We are now live in the group. Hold on a second. I believe it should be streaming into the group now. Let me go to the section. Everybody hold on tight. Okay, are we live now? Well, and I think we're live. I don't see it on the Facebook group. There we go. There we go. Hold on. There's a lag.
Perfect.
Okay.
Perfect.
So, yes, thank you, everyone. We had a bit of technical difficulty, but we are here now, and we are enthusiastic, and we are there. So today, I actually have Jeremy Snowden, who is. We had a actual podcast a little while ago, and we wanted to take a minute to promote it, and but we'll get into that. But let me introduce Jeremy. He is a yoga instructor, and just to give a bit of a little historical about him, he actually got divorced about 10 years ago, I believe, and that was what led him to be on his path to becoming a yoga teacher. And he actually started doing vision boards about 5 years ago, and he is the founder of 30 Days of Do. So that's just a really short resume. And Jeremy, as I've told him many times, he is an amazing storyteller. So I'm going to get out of the way, just ask him a couple questions and let him do the talking. So, Jeremy, welcome. Happy to have you here. I'm excited because the idea of vision boards, I've never personally done one, and I find it really exciting and interesting. So, please share with us some of your wisdom and welcome to the group.
Hey, Luis, thank you so much. I love Dynamo U. I love being able to watch a lot of the folks go live in there. It's just so encouraging to see people to move forward, regardless of what their circumstances, etc. Um,
Yeah,
and so, I guess just to recap, and feel free to ask me any questions, or if anybody in the chat wants to ask questions, I'm happy to answer them.
absolutely.
Well, so yeah, it was probably like 11 years ago. Oh my gosh, I think it was 12 years ago. So it was just like the darkest, deepest hole I could possibly be put in. Married for almost 20 years, kids, et cetera, et cetera. And in the cold of winter, the beginning of winter, um, that was it. And all of a sudden, it felt like the floor beneath me fell apart. Everything crumbled in a moment's time. And it was such a dynamic change and shift that I really just lost all my bearing. And so, we did the whole, kid exchange thing back and forth and all that stuff, but there was just seemed to be that essence of what I had before that was just gone. And so I just started to look within. I started to, prayer and meditation, et cetera, et cetera. And it led me to a path of just understanding myself through a wellness program, taking care of myself, and daily exercise regimen, et cetera. And I find that that's the best tool to be able to help us to get unstuck. And so for
Mhm.
the last 5 years, what I've been doing is I've been leading what we call balanced life vision board parties. So it started out physically at a local coffee house. I'd rent out a room, breakout room, and we'd sit there. And I still have to this day my 25 scissors, glue, glitter, and sticky things. And I used to have magazines. I got rid of them, right, in the a little bit more of downsizing. But magazines for days. I'd go to the library like, weeks before our vision board party, and I would gather 25, 30 pounds of magazines, and we would just sit there. And it was almost, Luis, like we were in kindergarten again with finger paints, those little glue sticks and all of that stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
And, we had these big giant 16 by 20 or whatever it was, the size of it, and just putting down and crafting, middle-aged people like myself, right? And here we are. Some of them are on the floor, and we just had a really good time. Just spent time to be able to put our craft together, what our lives are going to look like. And as I'd follow up with people, I'd realize, one person would say, "Hey, I stuck mine on the ceiling so that when I wake up in the morning, I can see it." Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Other people said that I'm going to put mine on a cup, right? You just send it over to Walgreens or CVS or whatever. and have it put on a cup. And this is what I do know. And I was teasing you about it earlier, so I'm going to do
Yeah.
it here again in your group.
Please.
You know, if I started singing the Kit Kat jingle, everybody could start singing along. So
Yeah.
give me a break,
Give
give me a
me a break. Give me all the piece of that Kit Kat bar.
right,
Yeah.
right. Luis is actually, and you're in Canada, right? Is
Yeah.
that right? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. So like, I mean, this company spent millions of dollars to implant that stuff into our consciousness,
Hmm.
our subconscious. And what I discovered is when I do that internal marketing to myself,
Yeah.
things begin to shift. And so since then,
Right.
I've had, like, for my personal um, video, or excuse me, my personal vision board, I've had, I don't know, like 10 or 15 iterations, right? You know, mid-year, et cetera, et cetera. But I just, all the things that I put on my vision board, it wasn't magic. It wasn't, maybe there was a little bit of magic in it, I don't know, but it was basically me internally marketing and being a magnet, being an antenna, if anybody remembers antennas, um, being receptive to what the universe would have for me, or what I would have for me.
Yeah.
And as I began to broadcast that out, things begin to happen, right? One of the things that I really, really wanted and desired was a partner, right? And so, you know, fast forward 10, 12 years, I'm married again, just really newly married. We have a wonderful blended family, and it's just it's so great. So I still do this, of course. It's not like, oh, it worked for me, see ya. I've got a lot of friends and families and connections that we're going to visit this Sunday, and I'll explain that a little bit in a second. But I want
Hmm.
to share with you the concept of it, because it's not
Yeah.
just said magic, right?
Yeah.
But in the ancient yogic language of Sanskrit, intentions is two words. It's sankalpa. So san meaning a connection with the highest truth,
Hmm.
right? So not something that you kind of want. I mean, I would eat a Kit Kat bar if it was here, right?
Right.
But that's not my truest, highest truth, right?
Yeah.
So excuse me, right. So, and then kalpa, which means vow or rule to be
Hmm.
followed. So a lot of times when people start a yoga practice, when they're getting ready to start, the teacher might say, you know, consider your intentions. So maybe you want to be light, maybe you want to be flowed, maybe you want to be undisturbed, maybe you want to be peaceful. Those words, what we do on the vision board is we translate those words to pictures.
Okay. Yeah.
So
Is
then
it
that way,
it's easier to kind of absorb that information? Is it okay? Yeah.
exactly. And a picture is worth what?
Yeah. 1,000 words.
Come
Yeah.
on, somebody. So when
Yeah.
you highest truth and it becomes a vow for you, and you stick it to your ceiling, you put it on your mug, you put it on your shirt, whatever, then
Right.
on your screen, like my wife and I have it on our MacBooks, like, you know, your login screen, you see right
Right.
there, bam, high
Ah,
truth. The things
interesting.
I'm subscribing to for this year,
Yeah. Yeah.
hiking, waterfalls, an intensive yoga practice, an intensive nutrition practice,
Mhm.
connect with friends and family, all the things that are the most important things
Yeah.
begin to surface up to the top. And then we put pictures, and all of a sudden we're able to graphically describe what 2024 finna look like.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. Um, so are these things, how do you, what is the process of being able to kind of put this together? For example, like me, I have certain ideas that I want to do. How would I get started so that I can market to myself? I find that genius actually. Just
Yeah,
yeah.
nice. Great question. You know, I like, again, I started in a coffee house, and the first one I did on a 3-day cycling ride, and that's what made me think maybe other people want to do this too. But
Mhm.
basically, I just took a stack of magazines and some scissors and some glue. You know, it's what, $6, $12, whatever,
Yeah.
and then began to craft this. And I love what Seven Habits of Highly Effective People author 25, 30 years ago, he wrote a book, a wonderful book that transformed and changed my life. He says, all things are created twice. He says there's the vision, which is the first creation. For a house, it would be a blueprint. Or for a life, it would be a mission. Or for a day, it would be a goal and a plan that you want to get. All of us have checklists for a day, right?
Mhm.
For a parent, it might be called belief in the unseen potential of our child.
Yeah.
But all things are created first in the mind,
Yeah.
and because it precedes the physical and then it's put in the physical.
Yeah.
And so
Mm.
as we get ready to put things together, you just stream through, you just open a magazine. If you're doing this on, hard copy, right? You just flip through it. And here's the problem with that, Luis, is a lot of us are busy. And so to put it on our planner to say, hey, I'm going to do a vision board, it's kind of challenging and we won't do it. Oh, I can't find scissors. I'll put it off till next week. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Until the next week.
Yeah.
So that's why we started doing them together. There's an African proverb that I love to quote in our 30 Days of Do program, which is, if you want to go fast, go alone.
Yeah.
But if you want to go far, go together.
Yeah.
And so as we sit there and we go through the process digitally, we just use a specific software that we have access to.
Okay.
We tag in the different photos from the stock photo options there, and we dump it in there, and then we help to tweak it, etc. And we talk through it. We have music in the background. We practice breath work initially, so we can just be in that place together. And
Yeah.
then for that segment of time, we just put things together for ourselves at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make
Mm-hmm.
sense?
Yeah, absolutely. How what is the idea kind of stream from? Because you started mentioning like yoga terms and things like that. Is this something that stems from, that has been adapted for today? Or is this kind of like what it's always looked like?
Sure. Well, of course, the yogic principles are just that. They're principles. It's sort of like we originated our medicine through, both India and Greek, right? Hippocrates, let thy food be thy medicine, like,
Mhm.
2,500 years ago. So from that, we branch off into different things, of course. And so it's sort of the same thing, from our ancestors in Africa and different other areas. We've got, you've got cave paintings throughout Europe, etc.
Yeah.
And you have just pictures and of the only things that were of the highest value. They didn't have paper like we have paper today.
Yeah.
They didn't have resources like we did. So,
Mhm.
I love that truth of Sankalpa, that highest truth, because you wouldn't waste, paint if you didn't have much on things that are low level. So to
Mm.
your question, as far as visualization for today, high performing athletes, singers, musicians, speakers, politicians, etc. They have a group of people that help them to envision or to visualize what it's going to be like. When they hop out on stage, we just think, oh, they have such a great gift. They're able to do this and the other. But in reality, Luis, they've been focusing on this. They've seen this day happen many, many days before it actually did. And so when we do the same thing in
Mhm.
our personal life, whether it's about our career, whether it's about our relationship,
Yeah.
whether it's about our nutrition or our overall health or our family or friends or whatever it is, or the world, we can actually visualize what we want things to look like so that we can work toward those things. So that's
Mhm.
how it would work in our modern age, I believe.
Yeah. Are there certain categories that we would kind of because like I wouldn't want to start a vision board and be like, oh, I left out relationships, for example. I don't know. Is there
Sure.
some kind of like a structure to all of these things so we can, because I imagine you'd want to have a representation or a picture for all aspects of your life,
I
right?
love it. Now, Luis, you sound like some of my folks that get involved in there. They have to, they like, the concept of trying to make everything fit in the right boxes and all that stuff.
I've got a science background, so yeah,
Okay.
that
Yeah.
definitely structure it's
Yeah.
like ingrained in me.
Sure. Well, then I'll say two things. One is our neurotransmitters, right? Our nervous system. They say that neurons that fire together wire together.
Mhm.
So when we're actually doing our vision board, we are rerouting, our nervous cells to be able to say this is what we want, and we work toward it, right? And the more that we do that, I mean, any habit, right? If I try brushing my teeth with my left hand, which is my non-dominant hand, it's
Yeah,
gonna fall square, etc., right?
yeah.
Obviously, if I put the intention into doing that on a daily basis, it's just not that important to me to be
Right.
amphibious.
Yeah.
Just kidding. So, uh, so rather, if I use my right hand, it's just flows smooth and fluidly
Yeah.
because I've just had that repetition. So when we
Mhm.
same thing neurologically. We are telling ourselves that internal marketing, again, it's not magic, it's really science too, you know.
Yeah,
uh,
yeah.
and so in those areas we've broken them down to six. I mean, there's probably 12. You could split them down to however many you want.
Yeah.
But what we've done is put them to connection, so relationships. And a lot of times people think relationship, they think of husband, wife, boo, crush, or whatever. Of course, it's more also geared toward family, toward community, friends, connection, right? So you
Hmm.
see how that it can expand. And so yours, because everybody likes perfect little boxes and all that stuff, yours might be different. Yours might be two or three different category, high priority categories, and then other things that are lower. But we do connection, which is relationship; mindset, which is mental and emotional thought process and how we want to think
Yeah.
in our lives; mission, which is more spiritual, right? Some
Right.
people maybe don't have a higher power, and so they wouldn't focus on the spiritual component, but their mission they would, based on themselves, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
The next one is body, which is physical health. The next one is vocational. Some people don't have a regular job, they have a business. So it'd be a career or business.
Yeah.
And the final and last one is resources. I mean, no margin, no mission, right? And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
financial health, maybe that's budgeting. Maybe
Mhm.
that's doing that side hustle that you've been wanting to get off of the ground. Maybe it's connecting with others to be in a joint venture that you've been looking at, instead of just setting it to the side, just deferring it because of a meeting, because of this other obligations. Maybe it will help to fire you up enough to be able to say, I'm going to be able to dedicate that hour, that 6 hours a week, or that hour a day toward getting this and that and the other. And so whatever you want to remember the next day, what you want to remember 3 months from now, those are the things that we put on there at high level into six different categories.
Okay. What do you mean by levels? Are there different degrees as to how something can manifest itself? Is that?
Mm, mm. Well, some things are going to take longer, right? If I
Mm.
put a picture of myself as a CEO in the upper left hand corner as far as career, well, it's highly, at least in my situation. Other people are closer because they've
Yeah.
put all that work, right? But if that was one of my aspirations, my sankalpas, my highest vow or truth, then I can put it on there. But I know that that's going to take a lot of work, right?
Yeah.
So as long as I can expound on it in the other blocks, and I wish I could switch my camera around, but I dare not try to do that, right?
Yeah. We had technical things. Let's not mess around with cameras.
Yeah, but imagine like a Brady Bunch, or a Zoom room where you have these different blocks, right? And so we have 9 different blocks. And from that, we pull in these different elements, right?
Mm.
And then based on what our highest truth, right? Ultimately, it's not being a CEO that's even that's not mine, but if it was conceivably, they say that that's not really it. It's the value of that. Maybe it's the
Mm.
admiration that someone might want, or the income that someone might want to achieve, or maybe it's the leadership that they want to espouse. So sometimes I ask people to maybe think a little bit more about their why. Why is that?
Yeah.
Zig Ziglar used to say, a busy woman doesn't want a laptop. She wants the time that it saves her,
Yeah.
so she can get work done while she's on a flight,
Yeah.
so that when she gets home, she can spend more quality time with her family.
Yeah. Yeah.
They
Absolutely.
also used to say that people don't want a drill. They want the hole that it will provide for them to be able to put the screw in.
Yeah.
So a lot of times when we think these big features, it's really what they do for us, the value that it brings us. And that's what we're looking for, the highest truths or vows.
I want to take a kind of a left turn because just kind of going back to our podcast conversation, and I just want to, if you can elaborate, because last time we were speaking about um, ancestors and how I remember you mentioned your grandmother and having this type of capability. I know I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about that again, because I just find it so interesting. Being able to put this vision board out and you know s- I know so many excuses exist, right? This is new to me. I don't want to be open to it, right? And I remember you mentioned something that everyone has the capability within themselves to be able to do what they want to do, and I just want to visit that again.
I love it. So, resilience. A couple years ago, I fell across this word, and I've known it before, but a lot of things, right, surface in our minds. But a lot of us forget what we can do because it's been beat out of us, or we've been told. Think of an elephant, right? A baby elephant, and you tie a rope around it's one of its trunks or its legs, right? And all of a sudden, now that it's a mastodon, after years and years, it can easily snap through that rope, but it doesn't
Hmm.
because it's been trained out of them. You take a class
Yeah.
of, I have a kindergartner bonus son, and he is a lot of energy, and he's pretty sure that he could do everything the best, right? I know, right? So the same thing with just take a class of kindergartens. You say who can sing the best, and they will all just raise their hands like this, right?
Yeah.
You take that same group cohort of kids and you put them in ninth grade, and they'll
Yeah.
somebody else.
Yeah.
We are conditioned by our environment, and sometimes it's healthy and sometimes it's not, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
So I love what renowned psychiatrist and concentration camp survivor Viktor Frankl said. He said, when a person can't find a deep sense of meaning, they distract themselves with pleasure. And so many of us have done that. We've conditioned ourselves. Well, love to can't. I'm not a morning person. I'm not an exercise person. I've failed every single diet, et cetera, et cetera. And we just say these things, and that becomes our mindset. Carol Dweck, I think she's a Harvard professor. It could be Stanford, don't get me wrong, but it's an Ivy League school. And she talked about growth mindset versus fixed mindset. Fixed mindset, you're
Mm.
just trying to get your heels slammed in the door. You
Hmm.
just want to be left out of being average, basically. A growth mindset would say, I can't do that yet, but
Yeah.
what I will do is try to wake up 30 minutes ahead of time. But however, what I will do is this and that and the other. And it is an intentional thing that you have to with
Hmm.
you have to pull the reins of your mind in that way. And what Luis was talking about was, as far as our ancestors, was our ancestors used to walk for miles every day. And we say, oh, I wouldn't have time for that. That's what they made cars for. I get that. But a lot of our heart prop conditions, a lot of our stress conditions are because we are not walking anymore.
Hmm.
And so, and I'm not saying, and I used to think of this stuff, I'm not trying to browbeat anybody into, but the thing is a lot of us, have a lot of adverse or have had a lot of adversity, so we avoid it. When actuality, a lot of times the adversity only strengthens us. They
Yeah.
say only a semi trailer load, when it's pressed down, only then will the truck drive straight and true. And a lot of times we don't have that. And so what we do is divert ourselves to Kit Kats,
Yeah.
or chocolate or food or alcohol or other substances to
Hmm.
be able to satiate ourselves, when we come from ancestors that were able
Hmm.
to conquer this blizzard that we had.
Yeah.
I'm staying inside. Oh my gosh, it's below 30. I'm just staying inside. But a lot of our ancestors had to go cut meat out there and wood and make provision for themselves.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that we can become Wim Hof or David Goggins or Serena Williams today or tomorrow, but I
Mm.
am saying that we are leaving a lot on the table, and it's only once we reach the nursing home, when we look back at our lives and we look at all of the different things that we left on the table with regret, do we find that. And I challenge, especially middle-aged folks, get up, make it happen. Stop sitting on your can. Stop canning all you get, getting all you can and then sitting on your can. It's not worth it. Our ancestors will be a lot proud of us in that day if we were able to do things and achieve things that we aspired to. Now,
Yeah.
success is going to look different for everyone, and we're not in competition with anyone else. But certainly, there's a lot more that most of us are leaving on the table that we shouldn't.
You just calling some people out. um, I find that so interesting because my parents, I'm originally from El Salvador,
Yes.
and if I really look back, I mean that's going back to like Mayan culture,
Mhm.
and it wasn't until I left North America because I've been blessed and I've been able to travel for work and for study. And it wasn't until I left various times to Latin America, for example, that I found this inner kind of connection, because it seems like I was out of my element and I was able to discover something that was beyond me. And I really got to like understand the meaning of like enthusiasm and drive and push and being uncomfortable and use it to my advantage. And that's why I think that ancestor kind of thing speaks a lot to me, because it was only by getting out of my comfort zone and going into another world, which is like, um I mean, going back to Latin America
Sure.
is something that my parents come from and my whole family comes from, but I didn't grow up in that culture. But it was something there that I found that really got me thinking of that biological. I mean, people there, they still grow their own gardens and they cut coconut from, trees, and they make wine out of it. And there's this whole type of more
Wow.
primitive, but it's more in touch with nature. And it was really rising with the sun and the roosters. And I'm like, holy smokes, this is
Mm.
this is what it's all about. And I come back to North America, I'm like, that didn't leave me. It didn't leave me. And I just
Love,
harnessed it to something else. And I really like what you were just saying there.
love it. I love that. That is so great. I remember 25 years ago as a, mid 20 somethings and going to Africa in East Africa. And they were like, hey, the showers are over there. I was like, cool. I didn't know what I was saying when I said cool, because basically they were using the rainwater captured in this huge cistern to be able to use as their shower. So
Yeah.
we're all now about cold showers, and my program has cold showers, so I'm not down on anybody.
Yeah.
But that they've been doing that for centuries,
Yeah. Hmm.
and it's you're right. We've kind of conformed to this comfort, but it's leaving out a lot of our lives. A lot of us. I'm 51, and a lot of us can't squat. We can't go down to the lower shelf anymore,
Hmm.
and it's just because of the fascia, the like cotton candy, fibrous tissue, just that's on the outside of our muscles that is just accommodating us in our sitting. And they say that sitting is the new smoking.
Wow.
So years
Whoa.
ago, I got myself a sit to stand desk,
Yeah.
you know, and so it's not about just deep plunging into the coldest river. Those are great, and they sell, and some of that is great, but it's just small adversity over time makes a big difference.
Yeah.
Instead of pushing ourselves into something that is just not comfortable only to validate the
Yeah.
fact that, yeah, I told you I couldn't do it.
Hmm.
Why not just turn the shower toward the dovetail of your shower down for 2 to 3 minutes to get it to go as far as you can, and
Yeah.
experience it, and let that water wash over the back of your neck and your head, to be able to increase your immune system, because we were adapted for this. We're able to survive whether it's a lot or a little. There are people that have, in this modern age, have been shipwrecked and have had to starve for 30, 40 days. As long as they had water, they were good to go. Again, it's not really so much about saying, hey, can you do this? A lot of men's groups, they're like, well, if somebody did it for this many days, then I'm going to do it for this many days. But it's
Hmm.
about that. It's about expanding our own capacity instead of competing with someone else.
Absolutely. We have a comment from McNetti Malama. Uh, he,
Nice.
he says, Jeremy, I have some questions from Africa for you.
Sure.
But he didn't, I don't know if he has any other questions actually. Um, yeah, he just said, Jeremy, I have some questions from Africa for you.
All right. Yeah.
Well, McNetti, if you're there, please continue. If you do have a question, go ahead. I'm curious as to what you want to ask.
For sure. And I'll say this too, modern, there's a couple of wonderful books that I highly recommend. Is it okay if I share those, Luis?
Absolutely, please. I'm gonna write them down. No, actually, we got a recording, so
All
I think
right,
that's
great,
it.
great. There
Yeah,
you go.
Yeah.
Okay, so the first one is Atomic Habits. Are you familiar?
I've heard of it. Yeah, I think that's on my list. Yeah.
Love it. So James Clear, the author, just began to put things together for himself after an injury, and just realizing that we do not. He says this. This is a quote directly from him. You do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems.
Wow. Say that again.
Right. You do not rise to the level of your goals. You
Yeah.
fall to the level of your systems.
Right. Okay.
So
Like intuitive.
well, there you go. Like the thing is if I decide I want to do push-ups, right? Then we usually think that we got to go to the gym and we need to get a trainer and all this. No, I just after I go pee in the morning, I need to do 6 push-ups. And then the next day I go pee again and then do he talks about the habit loop, the cue, the habit, and the reward. So the cue
Mm,
and that would
I've heard
be,
that before. Yeah.
hey, go and potty.
Yeah.
Okay, now I'm gonna do, my push-ups. And
Right.
the reward, of course, can be anything like, for instance, I did it.
Yeah.
That check mark, right? It doesn't always have to be a Kit Kat.
Yeah. 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 Absolutely. Yeah.
Or every morning I wake up because my coach told me that 180,000 people die before morning hits them. So every morning I look at my
Mm,
smartwatch and it resets my steps all the way to 0.
yeah.
And instead of groaning, I say this: I'm back.
Nice.
I'm back. So the
Yeah.
cue the cue, of course, is when I do this to look at the time and I see my steps, and then I say, oh yeah, every morning I say this, I'm back. And now with my bonus family, when I see them in the morning, I'm always like, I'm glad you're back. you know. Now they back. I'm
How's it
glad you're
feel with
back.
the day?
Say it for me.
Yeah,
But
absolutely. Back to another day.
Atomic Habits. It's a great way to easily prove to yourself that you can do things. Another thing that he says is that if you just become 1% better a day, 1%, like not leaps and bounds, not
Mm,
7 push-ups the first day, right, and then 20 the next. It's just 7 the next day too. Over and then maybe over a 2-week period, you go to 8 instead. Over that's just like compound interest. You take that. Let's just say you take a penny, right? He says you're gonna be 37 times better over a year's period. So if I start out only being able to do 2 or 5 or 7 push-ups a day, over the period of a year, I'm going to maximize that to 37 times that, right? And of course, we're not going to be Arnold Schwarzenegger or any of the other guys just immediately. We have to take in a lot of other factors, but it's the things that you want to pursue
yeah.
that's important that we should put that kind of energy to. But 1% interest on 1 penny over a year is 37 cents. If you put that same penny in your drawer and did nothing with it, it's worth 1 cent. And
Yeah.
that's what happens when we do nothing but just giving that 1% extra over day. It makes a big difference. Another book is 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. I talked about it earlier in the program. Dr. Stephen Covey,
Okay.
amazing
Another
uh,
book.
personal leadership, wonderful book. And then the final and last one, well, there's a lot of them, right, is Man's Search for Meaning by Dr. Viktor Frankl. And if it's okay, I'll just put it in the comments.
Yeah, please. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
He explains that how we're able to endure so much more than what we actually, he says, in between
Mm,
stimulus, what happens to us, and response, what we do, there is a space. And in that space is our growth and our freedom to choose our response. It's not, I
yeah.
just have a bad temper because I'm Irish, you know, or, I just have a short fuse. There's some things that we can do in the middle. And if
Hmm.
identify that, that's the sweet spot.
Yeah. I really like the idea of saying, like, continuously asking myself, who am I? Because
Mm,
I recently just went back home to visit family. Um, and I've been just doing some reading and writing and stuff. And it's funny how even till today, my dad will say certain things like, "Oh, you like fruits." I'm like, "I love fruit," but the way he says it, he it's kind of something that stemmed from when I was like 5 years old. And the reason why I question who am I, it's I give myself that space to say I'm always evolving if I'm open to like new information and
Sure.
like what I'm feeling. I kind of let myself have that freedom to say I don't know if I'm going to continue doing what I previously did just because that's who I think I am. I'd rather continue to be open to other new decisions and let that actually be me, the person who decides continuously if that's the direction I want to go. And
Right.
um going back to what I was just saying about my dad, it's like there's certain things that you have to like break out of and discover for yourself. And looking
Yeah.
at that one penny thing, it's like I allow myself just to make small little movement changes on a daily basis in order to really, I don't know, just keep continuously discovering and being in that zone like that you were mentioning, because that's where things are really interesting. And it can be scary, it can be uncomfortable, but that's the zone. I really got to read this book.
I love it. I love it. And you're exactly right. I had a I was really questioning, sort of like what you said, Luis. I was questioning what a family member, how they were treating me. I hadn't seen them in a while, and I was like, "Why are they treating me like this?" And my friend says, "Hey, uh, the your relative only knows you from when you were little.
Yeah.
They hadn't taken in all of the concept of my experiences, raising children, traveling, exercise. That they don't have all of the data." Because I was almost incensed, like, wow, why would you just think that of me or whatever?
Hmm.
Because they don't have the full context. And good on you for at least exposing that in yourself, saying, "Who am I?" It's
Yeah.
a wonderful, wonderful thing. Also, I would say this too: El Salvador or the Mayan culture. I've seen those steps on those temples. You know what I'm saying? The
Yeah.
masters were, cardiovascularly fit.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And just the way they harvested and the way they built their societies, it's I would rather see that as what I should naturally be doing instead of I'm sitting down right now, you
Sure.
know? And I think that's what helps me to say for millions of years, evolution and then adaptation and the new technology such as well, I don't know how long chairs have been around for, but
Sure.
right, toilets, for example,
Yeah.
it's only been for the last, let's say, 200 years that we've been sitting down, going to the toilet like that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what is the natural way, and how can I kind of adapt it with my everyday life? And I think just that 1%, how can I do that 1% thing? And if you continuously do that, those are the habits that you were talking about. Things start to change because
Yeah.
you're at the driver's seat.
Right. And and our society has a way of kind of doing that too. It's saying, "Hey, use a squatty potty instead." That little, just a little plastic. Somebody made billions of dollars, millions of billions of dollars, creating a chair that simulates more our body anatomy the way we did things in the past. Wim Hof with his breathing techniques, or his cold immersion, Iceman. He's got a great book out. Uh, really called people to, hey, what exactly is wrong with being cold? Like, and
Mhm,
having looked at all of different evidence of, the immunity system, creating that resilience, being able to cool ourselves down, our blood reducing, stress, etc. It's like, that's not a bad thing.
mhm, mhm,
So,
mhm.
and then of course with the, oh gosh, the names of them escape me. The Spartan Run, all these different adventure races and all of that stuff. It's almost calling our primal part out again to
Yeah,
help us be able to see what's in the tank,
yeah.
instead of just always looking at our 401ks or our retirement funds to see how we're going to sit the next, the last 10, 15, 20 years out. Why not invest in ourselves? I love the hashtag health is wealth, because that's exactly.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah. Well, I want to go back because I definitely agree that being in extreme climates, for example, being cold, is that good for you? Because I used to box, and one things that boxers actually do after a fight is that they put their hand in cold water, and that helps with circulation, with inflammation, and things like that. But I don't know how far I'm going to go with this because, as you mentioned, I'm in Canada at the moment. and this country is covered in snow. So
Yeah, yeah.
just looking at that, I'm like, hold on a minute. If this country's under snow, is it really natural that that because you can't harvest anything? So is where's all this food coming from? So now I'm starting to question this country as a whole. Where's all the food coming from? It must be coming from somewhere else. So I don't know if we're meant to be here so far north. I don't know.
Uh,
I look at people from like the equator and
sure.
the latitudes. I'm like they're pretty comfortable in
Yeah.
terms of resources. But anyways,
Right, right. And it's we're cyclical. And a lot of times we shouldn't. I worked with a physician that helped me to be able to learn how to eat well years and years ago. And he says, everything in its season. Why are we getting, apples from Australia, in time where they're not here? Suppose we need to learn to adapt to our environment. I don't know what they did for. Well, they fit. There's a large fishery, right, and especially in
mhm,
like Nova Scotia and all of that area.
yeah.
You so, but I'm not thinking that we should go. I still love having a warm house at night. I still
Oh
love
man,
able
yeah.
to sleep on the floor all the time. But I also do love camping. We have a men's group that goes out twice a year into nature in the beginning of spring and then at the tail end of fall. And we just stay up until the fire goes out and we just, cook on we have some stuff in the house, but we cook on the grill. It's just that that's what humans came from. And a lot of times we get so stuck into there's something used to happen to me. I used to own an insurance agency for years and years, and I felt like I was just going to sleep to wake up to go to the office,
Hmm.
to wake up to go to sleep.
Hmm.
TGI Friday, and all of a sudden the pressure would release, and then the Sunday scaries all over again. It was like Groundhog Day,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But when I started saying I probably need to take care of my body,
Hmm.
and then it's so funny too. When I started to pull away from just that myopic focus,
Yeah.
uh, income started to increase.
Wow. Okay.
Almost like counterintuitive that when we begin to take care of ourselves,
Yeah.
think of it. All of a sudden, a lot of people have went through a divorce. 50% of married couples have went through a divorce. And after a divorce, I mean, just it feels like the world is falling around against us. But yet, what happens? We begin to take care of ourselves again. We make ourselves a priority. We're watching what we eat. We begin to focus on those things that are important, and all of a sudden, we're in the best shape of our lives.
Yeah.
We're in the best mindset.
Yeah.
Goal. We have a plan. We have a routine. We have a ritual that we do, and then let some fine young hottie or come our way, and then we just begin to relax and settle in and just start doing the old things again. But I think that even our partners appreciate when we say love to can't. I've got this that I do. Having a routine and a ritual is a boundary, but it
Hmm.
also lets that person have confidence in knowing that, okay, this person is solid. And so I always encourage people, the vision is one thing, having a vision, but then you've got to implement it, because the word karma doesn't mean, hey, karma is going to come get you. It means cause and effect or action. Like every action that
Mm-hmm.
going to have a different thing. When I eat a Kit Kat, my blood sugar is going to spike up, right? And if I do too many of those, all of a sudden I'm become insulin resistant.
Hmm.
So karma, right? But karma means action. So it's
Hmm.
not much the consequence, it's the fact that you do those things for a better outcome.
Yeah.
And so when we do it on a small basis, sometimes that 1% is where we need to be, just
Mm.
to ourselves. Create a vision and then execute. Make action your habit.
The reason why I really like the idea, and I'm new to this, the vision board, the concept, is because I'm actually starting a super fascinating. It's a book. It's The Untethered Soul. I don't, that's it. It's I'm like, what? The idea is for those who don't know, and I'm just starting it, but it's the concept of being open, and it goes back to what you just reminded me when you said when I started taking care of myself. my income started to increase. And well, I believe, because I studied science, and I mean, everything's energy, everything's vibrations. They've proven it on like a physical level. Um, and once you let that energy kind of flow through you by being open, and this is where I'm like, this is all of this is new, right? Uh, like energy centers and things like that. That if you allow your heart to be open in your mind, that and it goes back with taking care of yourself, that
Uh,
you actually kind of align yourself with the universe in certain things, like I'm gonna work less but take care of me, and all of a sudden my income rises. I'm like, that is directly correlated, because you're allowing yourself to um be open, I guess, to like certain uh I don't know. I don't know if I'm starting to mix words here, but that karma to allow certain things to actually manifest themselves into your life. I don't know if
yeah,
you want. Seems
yeah.
like you read that book. I don't know.
Oh yes, I love Michael Singer. He's actually a yogi, just an incredible guy. In fact, I've learned a lot from him. So good on you for reading that and rereading it. To be honest with you, because he talks about this, which it's about mindset again too, Luis. It's like he talks about how I love in the book. He talks about um, you know your girlfriend or boyfriend, depending on who you are. But your girlfriend, messages and says, "Hey, um, uh, I'd like to do something tonight, and so I'll be over around this time." You're like, "Great," and all of a sudden and then your mind just goes, she wants to break up with you.
Yeah, I remember reading that book.
Yeah, had you been on your A game, or have you done that stupid thing or whatever, and blah blah blah, and all of a sudden it's getting late and you're worried, and then you get home and you realize that she made you this wonderful dinner because it's your year anniversary together, et cetera, et cetera. Well, what happened? That was your own mind. We're
Mhm,
playing against you. And
mhm.
sometimes that happens to us and we don't ever question it. And Singer is calling us out to question what's going on there. And he goes on to say, well, if you had a roommate that treated you like that with just that level of disrespect, you wouldn't live with them. But yet we find that that's what we do with our own minds. And this is the last and final frontier that mankind hasn't conquered, is our mind, our mindsets.
Yeah, it's really crazy, because what I've gotten in the book, actually, it says that all of our experiences, our emotions, our thoughts, they're not us. We are basically the experiencer or the watcher. That's the way I see it. There's a
Yes,
novel, and I'm like, there's a character that's called the Watcher. I'm like, anything that helps you kind of visualize it, right? So I said, I'm the watcher of all of these things that are happening to me,
love it.
and I'm basically just we're going far. Um, I'm basically just consciousness and awareness, and the intuitive kind of like of being. And I'm like, holy smokes, because I'm not the 5-year-old Luis, or I'm not the 30-year-old Luis. Like, I experienced those, and everything that I lived and the thoughts that I came up through those experiences, that's not me. That's something that I experienced. But what am I? I'm just this conscious thing that observes everything. I'm like, that takes things to the next level. And by putting that into practicality, I mean, then I can do exercise, for example, or do a vision board. And just this is just another moment for me to experience life and to get to know me, basically. And the
That's
final
wonderful.
frontier is the mind.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And you're exactly the witness, right? The watcher. I love that. Yeah. And when you experience that and realize, wait a second, what's going on here? Um, can I share a passage of an ancient sacred passage I found? It's in the Upanishad, which is an ancient Indic text. It's probably around 3,000 years old. And
Wow.
this is what it says about our minds. So, I mean, it just brings it back to modern here. It says, As the tethered bird grows tired of flying about in vain find a place of rest and settles down at last on its perch, so the mind, tired of wandering from about hither and thither, settles down at last in the self to which it is bound. So it's like taking a snow globe and shaking it, and all of a sudden you see all of these different things, these thoughts, right? But then when you just allow for that, all the garbage, hey, you're what your dad said, you're what your mom said, you're
Mm-hmm.
this, that, labels, etc.
Mm-hmm.
Failed in second grade or whatever, all that, and just
Yeah.
allow settle all of a sudden, and you see it, and you don't push against it all the time, but you just allow for it to settle in you. You know, then all of a sudden you're in that still place to where you can see, where you can watch, where you can witness the going
Mm-hmm.
of your mind. Yeah.
That's insane. Yeah, it just opens up so many different possibilities
Love.
because I mean, one of the reasons why, like I mentioned, I went back to Latin America so many times, and even I've been to Africa, is just to like get in tune with something that I didn't know. And now that I've felt it and experienced it and touched it, like all the five senses, it really kind of gives you permission to say, well, for example, in my case, I almost didn't pass high school. Like I literally had to speak to the principal and ask her, please let me pass.
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay, but please take some extra courses because I it's just the way she said it. That's what I don't remember what she said, but it's the way she said. She's like, I really want you to move forward, so I'll let me give you the pass, but go back to school. And years later, I'm like, I've got a master's degree and all of these things, and
Yeah.
it's like it kind of gives me permission to be like, that may have been something that I experienced, but that's not me.
Yes.
And there's a lot of things I have to kind of undo, unbaggage, like, but still I'm like, that's not me. That may have been something that I experienced, but I'm not dumb. I'm capable, right? And it, I don't know. I really like that quote that you just said, the self and
Luis, I would also point out that that young Luis, 17, 18 years old or whatever, still had the tenacity to go ask, still had the tenacity to go, and appeal to that higher authority. The answer, if not asking, the answers are no. But Luis
mm,
said, I'm going to go do this, and appealed. So it's just there, while, somebody could say, think to put a label on us, right? It is the aspects of the intricacies of the things that it's just a part of the path, like,
yeah.
from there to master's degree, right? And I'm pretty sure along the way there were some challenges, and you're just
Woo!
going, right?
Yeah.
But when we stop at those challenges and then decide, and then only look back and decide all of the negative things that have happened to us, that those are us, that's what stops us. Instead of identifying all of the things that got us here in the first place that are going to help us to go forward. It's that growth mindset versus that fixed mindset, right?
Yeah. I never thought about it that way, to be honest. Yeah, to like actually, because if I hadn't done that, who knows, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I think the whole idea of and anyways, when would you think it'd be best to do like these vision boards? Is this like at the beginning
Okay.
of the year or is it at any time?
Yeah. So, and if it's okay with you, I'll just place something in the link too. I've got a vision board.
Yeah, please.
Our first one for the year is this Sunday at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. So your time or Eastern time would be 7, and working all the way back. And it's an online interactive live, just like what we're doing here, and where I'll be instructing you on how to be able to develop and create your own vision for 2024. I'm not going to give you the words. You're going to give me the words. You're going to give me the words. But we're going to work together in a collaborative environment, and with, like I said, breath work and music and all of that. I'll send the link up. And if you want to join us, we'd love to have you. And like I
Mhm.
said, a lot of times doing it by ourselves is a little challenging because there's
Yeah.
nobody there going
Mm.
to celebrate you. There's nobody there that's going to hold you to that commitment. If you notice, if you ever had to do any intensive studying, having a study buddy come over and burn the midnight oil and drink coffee and make things happen was a lot better than sitting there and just, straightening your desk 12 different times and not doing anything. So we'd love to be
Absolutely.
able to have you on, and anybody that's in the group to participate, if that works for you guys.
Yeah. Well, I know that some people asked if this was going to be recorded. So I
Hmm.
know that there's some people who are probably, because this is a little bit early. So I know that some people are going to rewatch this. So yeah, please, we'll make sure that all this stuff is available for those who couldn't be here. And then Kimmy, she said, this is, what is she? This is awesome info she wrote. So
Thanks,
yeah,
Kimmy.
some people are definitely resonating with this information, and it's great. Yeah. So, yeah, definitely send us the information so we can get in touch with you. And you said it was for this Sunday.
Yes, this Sunday evening. So before going to work and preparing for the next week, prepare for the next year.
Yeah, yeah, and I think and I liked how you said with the watch. You start from the beginning. I'm back. I mean, 2024. It's a calendar date. The
Yeah,
way I see it is, it starts now, and
yeah,
I even wrote someone and I said, I don't have, my big goal for this year is to take small steps. Just
love
make
it.
continuous steps so that at the end of the year I can look back and be like, oh wow, I did all of that. Not really say I want, I mean, I do have that, but it's more just focusing on the mini. What am I doing today and tomorrow? And if I just continue with that, I feel like I'll be able to really amount to something because I'm taking one step at a time.
I
Um,
love
so yeah, I really like that idea.
I love
So
that.
I'm sorry, could you repeat again for this Sunday, just for
Yeah, sure. It's Sunday at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time, or 7 Eastern Time. And it's a Zoom. It's a live interactive group. Here in a second, I'll just post inside the group, if that's okay, a link to get registered.
yep,
And yeah, we'll make it happen. Would love to be able to meet and visit with as many people as possible.
absolutely perfect. Well, we're about to hit the hour mark, and I think maybe we'll leave it there. And yeah, Jeremy, again, this is like we did a podcast, so check out that conversation because this is kind of a continuation of what we had spoken before,
Absolutely.
and just to show you guys that I mean, this is our second conversation, so that we covered just half of what we talked about last time. So if you guys are interested, I'll also be able to put some the link below so you can check that out. Really interesting conversation, and yeah, I just wanted to just say, Jeremy, thanks once again. And also, if you want to hear his storytelling abilities, yeah, check out that podcast. So thank you so much, Jeremy, for spending some time with us today and really making, at least I learned a ton. And I feel like having these type of conversations kind of allows you to make connections and then realize how that kind of relates back to my life. And I hope that the people had that experience as well.
Helps people put pieces together for themselves.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Perfect. So if you want to get in touch with him, Jeremy said he's going to put links in. So there you are. And yeah, for anyone who wants, again, I know this is going to be recorded. So if you want Jeremy to come back, let us know. Or if you want to participate in this group, again, he open arms. So there you are. So thanks once again. And I think we'll call it a day for that.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate you guys.
Absolutely. Take
Bye.
care. Bye.